Good morning, Scott here with your daily forecast for the Forex markets. So yesterday, following NFP on Friday, was a bit of a funny day. It gapped up on the open, or gaps on the open, and some not very good price movements during the day. Some things played out, but didn't give us an entry. Anyway, looking a bit better today, although some things are still looking a bit need a bit of time to set up properly, but there are a few things to look at certainly. Pound and euro seem to be the ones which are worth watching in particular. So let's get into the charts and I'll show you what I'm seeing today. Okay. Just like that, get that over there. Okay, right. We'll start off with Aussie CAD. On the high time frames here, monthly, weekly, daily, we can see we're in a bit of a downtrend. And hitting this low down here recently, bouncing up to the daily 50, heading down again. And then since NFP, we've had bullish action on this pair. Yesterday, we covered the gap down. You can see it closed here and opened down here. So we covered the gap down and still closed bullish. So that looks pretty good for a bullish day today. We're heading towards the daily 50. There's a bit of room there. So let's look at the lower time frames. 4 hour, 5 minute, 1 hour. We'll zoom into the 1 hour. That's where I focus most of my time, because the 4 hour is on here as well to some extent with the 4 hour 50. So the 1 hour 50 is the red line, the most important line on this chart. The 4 hour 50 is the blue one, second most important line. Then we've got the daily 20s, the red, thin red, and the thin green is the daily 50, just so we can keep track of where they are as well. Right, what do we have then? We have a bounce off the low, break up through the hourly 50 and the 4 hour 50. Then a gap down on the open yesterday. And since then we've had sideways and then some bullish pressure. So bullish action coming in. Doesn't look very nice because of that gap and because of the action, but we do have from yesterday a nice break of the 1 hour 50 again and the 4 hour 50. Quick retest the 4 hour 50, but it's done a nice little arch over here, and hopefully we'll pull back to the 4 hour 50. My fibs are right, are they? Let's get these fibs lined up. So the lows of the fib I did from this low here, I ignored this new spike, this big one. So this low here, so this high, and that lines up pretty good. Aussie CAD, any time of day, because it's an Aussie pair. Pull back to the 4 hour 50. Sorry, pull back to the 1 hour 50 as it meets the 382 of our fib. Great entry point. Our stop will go behind the 618, and it's a CBO because we have a breakout of both the 4 hour 50 and the 1 hour 50. And also sits behind our daily pivot. This is our S1. S1, this low line here. There's a daily pivot entry just above 382. So if you want to take this as a pip snatcher, you could. That looks pretty good for pip snatcher as well, with both the 1 hour and 4 hour 50 as defense, protection against our stop down here. And if you're doing a pip snatcher, you would make it 1-to-1, enter the pivot, stop below the S1, S1 here, and go for one 1%. Quick 1-to-1, quick 1-to-1, and that'll be a nice quick pip snatcher, you hope. So that comes back to the pivot. So I'll just undo that and I'll take it back to our CBO, which obviously has 2% potential plus. So this will be my choice if it pulls back for us. If we get a nice pullback to the 382, 1 hour 50. That's looking really nice. I like that one. All right, let's look at Swiss yen. Higher time frames. It's been drifting up and then drifting sideways. And recently we've had rejection of this level here. We've probably got a MACD divergence. Yep, pretty strong MACD divergence here. This is much lower on the MACD than this high here. These are the same, so it's a MACD divergence implying lower prices. Haven't had much of a pullback though. It's kind of been drifting down. It's hit the daily 50, and since then it's bounced off. 2 bullish days in a row. Today's therefore looking bullish. Although must be aware that we're in a pullback with a MACD divergence from this support level. So it's a bit mixed signals, but there should be a trade long on our lower time frames. All right, so we'll go to our lower time frames, and what do we have there? So we've got this downtrend, clearly broken, 1 hour 50 broken, the trend line broken. And I think we talked about this as it doesn't matter. Possible it's SBO last week for a swing breakout. Anyway, so it's been going long since then, which is good. Looking good for a CBO. We've clearly broken the 1 hour 50 and now the 4 hour 50. Very strong price action. If it pulls back, my fib here goes from this low to the high. And so we'll enter at 382 of the fib, which is this red line, lines out almost perfectly with the pivot, daily pivot. Stop behind the 618. If you took this as a pip snatcher, you could, and put your stop behind this S1. And obviously with the pip snatcher, you go for 1-to-1, quick 1-to-1. With the CBO, we look for something a bit higher. I would suggest only for these highs up here. Use trade management to lock in profits as you go higher. Whatever is your style, whether you go behind 5-minute swings, 15-minute swings, probably for this one, 5-minute swings, or yeah, probably 5-minute swings would be a good option for this. Which is what we can use. This is where we can use the 5-minute chart on here. So as it trends up, rejects this, then trends up, we can look at the 5-minute swings, the lows, and then move our stop behind that low as it trades up to lock in as much profit as we can. We'll never get the top. That's fine. But we'll just go as much as we can. So back to the 1 hour chart. So that looks like a good for CBO. Potential 2% there. That looks nice. Hopefully it will pull back. We'll see. Euro CAD. So this one might sit up for another 6-8 hours probably. Looking at the daily chart, it's not great. It's been going sideways with an upward bias for quite a while. It's rejected this major level. It's been respected quite a few times going back in time. Let's pull back to our daily 50. Beautiful low test on Friday, June NFP, and a very bullish day yesterday. So it's looking very good for a bullish day again today. That's a pretty much textbook reversal pattern there. On our lower time frames, we have the downtrend with its trend line clearly broken, 1 hour 50 broken. Trending up, never pull back to the 1 hour 50 unless you call this, that's on the gap on the open, so that doesn't really count. So it's now broken the 4 hour 50, waiting for it to come back down, give the 1 hour 50 time to trend up, meets the 4 hour 50, and that'll give us an entry. So fibs, top, pretty obvious. I'll go on here, highs. Presumably this is the high when it doesn't go higher again before it pulls back, which maybe it'd be nice if it did in some ways, because then that could give us a better lineup of our 382 and our 1 hour 50 and our 4 hour 50. It's a little bit lower. So we don't have much option on the fib. If we go right from the bottom, 382 is way too low. If we go from this low here, from the gap, it's probably too high. So what I did is I just took the wick off this here, which is where the news event happened. So I moved the wick, just went from the body of that candle, and that lines up pretty good. So ideally this will come a little bit higher first, give us an entry. The entry will be around the 382, a stop behind the 618, this green line here, and take profit. Conservative would be these lows here, still gives 1.5%, 2%, or you could even take it much higher. So these highs here. Looking back at the daily to remind ourselves what the highs are. The highs are this major resistance level. So we want to go higher than that. But that's yeah, that's looking pretty good for later on as well. So hopefully that will come in. But a few euros to look at. Let's look at euro yen. Right, so we've had this uptrend. Again, we've got some resistance level that's been respected. Bounced off, come back to the 2050 zone, daily 2050 zone here. And it rejected it quite well, or very nicely. And there's actually a level there. Yes, there's a good level there. So we can just draw a level in there. This is the last highs, the bodies of the candles. That's exactly the level that it rejected there. So that's why it rejected it. And you may go back in time and find that's an important level as well. So we've got two bullish days. Today we're looking to go long again. Right, so we never really had a pullback to our 1 hour 50. It broke through it right down here. Bullish all the way. Let's just swing that down a bit. Proportion. I did revisit the 4 hour 50 very briefly, but it would be nice to see now a nice pullback. Oh, my fibs are completely wrong here. We go to these highs, and we'll take the low from these lows here, maybe. Slow here. So it almost lines up. 4 hour 50 with the 382 is pretty close. The 1 hour 50 is a little bit higher. So I might have to just break through the 1 hour 50 briefly to give us an entry. Any time of day, being a yen pair. Yen entry around the 382. So this trade will become active once the price action breaks below the 1 hour 50 and the 382. Or it could be the 4 hour 50 and the 382, but in this case the 1 hour 50 is higher. So that'll break through first. Go back to 382. Maybe you could do that 382 from this low here. Perhaps a little bit. So see how that looks. I expect it to break down, at least test the 4 hour 50 to make the trade active. Then we're looking for an entry. Either enter at the 382 itself with an entry order, or you could enter on a 5-minute break or a 2-minute break, or whatever is your style. Take profit. These highs makes sense to me. Good price target. Stop behind the 618. That's looking quite nice. So if it pulls back, Euro USD, another euro pair. Right, again, we've had two really bullish days. So we are looking for that to continue today. Very similar to the last one. We've had a long run up and very little in the way of pullbacks. So it's time for people to take profits and for this to pull back to a 382, a 1 hour 50. And it was CBO because the 4 hour 50 is broken as well. Our CBO, sorry, our 4 hour 50 is before our stop, before the 618, which makes it a CBO. And our stop will be below the 618. And that's a nice looking CBO there. My fibs from the highs and the lows down here on this low here, ignoring this spike. So that's where I've done my fibs, which line up pretty well. We can't really go any higher than that. There's no other high apart from here. Another low we can use. So that's way too far. So that looks pretty good. That's one to keep an eye on. Take profit. These highs here. Just go back to our daily to remind us what was going on here. So the take profit we've got is for these highs here from a few days ago. If you believe this is a long trend now, then this is a wave 3 maybe. Wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like a wave 5, doesn't it? So I wouldn't go past these highs. And that'll still give 1.8% potentially there. So that looks okay. Pound CAD. Daily trending up, not particularly nicely, but it's been trending anyway. Nice little waves. Low test here on NFP day, just below the daily 50, and it broke back up through the daily 50 and the daily 20 yesterday. So it's looking like it might still go long again today. That's looking pretty good for a long trade. And it's looking similar across a lot of pound pairs. So when they all tell the same story, then that helps our thesis of where the price action is going to go. So since this low, we've had a breakthrough of the 1 hour 50, clearly broken through the daily 50, it's green line, daily 20, the red line, and now the 4 hour 50. What's it going to do now? We also needed to pull back to give us an entry. If we did a fib from these lows, and these highs do stay here, doesn't go any higher before it pulls back, that'll pull back to an entry on the 382, directly lines up with that daily pivot. So it can also be a pip snatcher. No, it can't, because the 4 hour 50 is in the way. So one of the rules of the pip snatcher is not to trade through any significant resistance levels, and 4 hour 50 is one of those. So we will count that as a pip snatcher, but it's nice that the pivot lines up with 382, because a lot of people taking pivot entries will also be trading the strategies that we're trading, and give us more momentum to the upside. So the stock goes below this 0.75 for an IBO. IBOC, because we've already touched the 4 hour 50, just broken it and pulling back through it again. So we'll be trading through the 4 hour 50 again. That's an IBOC. Take profit. Makes sense to be these highs here. Or you could push a little bit further if you wanted to, up to here. And so an IBOC will give 1.68%. You may find this trends up and pulls back for CBO. That's possible. We'll sort of see what price action does, but if this high holds, it pulls back from here. But it's pound CAD, so it's not going to happen for another 8 hours. So lots of time for the 1 hour 50 to start catching up. Maybe go high and pull back. We have to watch the price action and see what happens there. Pound Swiss, again, another 8 hours before this sets up. Very similar to pound CAD, but this time it hasn't broken the daily 50. It actually just came back to bounce off it. Doji followed by a bullish day yesterday, and looking bullish today. Right, so what do we have here? We've got from the daily 50 bounce, double bottom at daily 50, breaking through this trend line, breaking through the hourly 50, kind of giving an IBO on, that was yesterday morning. So where was the gap? Well, the gap down was here yesterday morning. Since then we had some very bullish action from the pound. Let's just shrink that down a bit. It's a bit out of proportion. And then it had a nice little IBO. Went out to the 4 hour 50, so it'd be nice if you call that one. And now we're looking for maybe another IBO, another opportunity to get an IBO. Discretionary, because we already had the original IBO. It pulls back now, or maybe we'll just keep pulling higher and create a CBO. Either way, it's an IBO, entry 382, 1 hour 50, and stop behind the 0.75. We can trade up to these highs. Quite a few choices of where you take the trade to. We'll take profit. These highs, which is still over 2%, that high or that high. I suggest just using trade management to capture your profits as you go. If it just keeps breaking up now, then what we'll have is something like this perhaps, and that will give us a CBO. So then we'll be entering here, stop behind a 618 of that fib that it creates. I'll show you. Let's do this. So if it does go to about this high, Get the time, 1 hour 50 time to catch up, and then there'll be a CBO edging around here up to these highs, and stop behind the 618. So that could play out as well. We'll see what happens, how that sets up. Pound yen, again, 2 bullish days, looking like we're going for more bullish action today. There lots of bullish pressure yesterday and strong break through the 1 hour 50. Never really pulled back to the 1 hour 50. Now it's back to the 4 hour 50. So we're looking for some kind of pullback at some stage. If these are the highs, we can do a fib from down here somewhere. Maybe these lows here. We'll give the one at the 382, we'll be lining up with our daily pivot pretty close. 1 hour 50 time to catch up, enter around the 382. So again, you could, no, you can't have a pitch snatcher because the 4 hour 50 is in the way. So CBO is the best option. Stop behind the 618 and take profit. Maybe these highs, plenty of options there. You can take a little bit higher. So that's looking nice, as long as we get a pullback. We'll hope for that one later today. Pound Kiwi. Okay, we've got, looking for a bearish day yesterday, but the gap up and the strength of the pound yesterday, and we've got a very bullish looking day today. Following a bullish day yesterday. Let's see what lower time frames give us. So here's our trend line. It looks pretty good. It was tested, broken, and then retested yesterday. It's the strength of the trend line. Shows it's a strong trend line. Since then, it's been breaking up. We've sort of had an IBO here, very small one. It's pulled back a bit since then. Maybe we get another IBO. Discretionary second IBO. The first one was a bit small and probably on low volume yesterday. That was at, hang on, that was middle of the US session. Okay. So that's a valid IBO. Maybe we'll get a second go. Pound Kiwi, any time of day, any session that could set up. If it does pull back, we can do our IBO here, enter 382, around the pivot, and stop kind of 0.75. Or if not, if it doesn't pull back, then we have to wait for it to break. But the 4 hour 50 for CBO, how's that going to look on the daily chart? This is the head and shoulders we looked at yesterday. This is the left shoulder, head, right shoulder. There's a neckline, daily 50. I wouldn't really want to trade through the daily 50 or the neckline. It may just reject that anyway. So I would suggest take profit just before the daily 50, before the 4 hour 50. So hopefully the IBO will come back in, otherwise probably a missed trade, or you wait for a break of the 4 hour 50, which means the daily 50 is already broken. That will probably won't be till probably Thursday, I imagine. Pound dollar, 2 bullish days, but bumping straight into this trend line, which has been holding really, really strong. So that probably gives a nice looking potential CBO here, like on the other pound pairs. This trend line, which is respected here and almost respected yesterday, didn't quite reach it, but you could probably tweak it to go down there. Yeah, no. By the way, we want to trade through it, so you could take that as a long. But the daily 50s here, I think there's better pound options, so I would put that as a secondary. The other ones I see which look pretty good, right, setting up at the moment. There's a couple which may set up a bit later. Aussie Kiwi. So Aussie Kiwi has been on a very strong downtrend, decelerating. Nice reversal candle on Friday and NFP, but yesterday the gap up, and then it went down and didn't fill the gap, didn't really go anywhere. But we could still see some, if we see some bullish strength today, then we could get some kind of setup. Right, what do we have here? So this is a long downtrend. Both trend lines clearly broken, but it broke the hourly 50 yesterday, came back, and it just didn't care, just went sideways. Pretty yucky price action. But the fact is the daily is suggesting we're going long. So if we do get a nice strong break above the hourly 50, maybe as far as the 4 hour, probably want to see it go higher than this breakout. Then we get a discretionary second IBO, pull back to the hourly 50, and then take that long. So that's something to keep an eye out for. The last one will be pound Aussie. Okay, so we had the breakdown, bounced off the daily 50, strong day yesterday, bullish day. But we're heading close to this SR line, resistance line. Is there much in it? Don't know. Maybe not. Yeah, there's bounced off here, tested it here, bounced off there, all the way along here. It's been respecting it. That's a pretty strong line actually, which we're at right now. So although yesterday's candle suggests we're going bullish, this trend line, this SR line, we'll just copy it from here and paste it over here. Here it is. It's looking pretty strong. So maybe if it breaks above it, which is what I'm looking at here, if you get a clear break above it, above the 4 hour 50, then it pulls back to the 4 hour 50, will have broken above this resistance line, and that can even act as support for a trade higher. So they may set up. We have to see if it has the strength to break through it. So they'll see it break above, pull back, give us an entry and have a long trade up to this trend line, perhaps. Right, there we go. That's what I've got for you today. Yeah, working, good, excellent. There's a few things to look at. Some nice looking ones which could play out if the pound pulls back. Yeah, so keep an eye on those charts, and good luck with the trading, and I will be speaking to you tomorrow. All the best. Speak soon. See you.